My cousin Ben and I had been hiking in the mountains of Wyoming for a few days. We'd been on these trips before, just the two of us, escaping the chaos of city life. But this one felt different. We had ventured farther out than usual, searching for a secluded spot to camp. It was a Thursday, the middle of the week, so we knew we wouldn't run into anyone. Our bosses didn't mind giving us some time off for this kind of thing, and we took full advantage. This time, we were in the Medicine Bow Route National Forest, an area Ben had explored a few years back. He assured me it was safe. He'd camped there alone before and had a good time, but this time, it felt quieter, like the forest was holding its breath. After driving for hours and then hiking deeper into the woods, we found a small clearing. It was perfect. Enough space for our tents, a fire pit, and some room to stretch out. We spent the next few hours setting up camp. Ben, as usual, was fast at setting up the tent. I took my time, fumbling with the stakes. After a while, I stopped trying to keep up with him and let him handle the heavy lifting. While he worked on the fire pit, I went off to gather some firewood. I felt that chill in the air, the kind that made you want to look over your shoulder, but I shrugged it off. The fire would warm us up soon enough. The sun started to dip below the trees, and by the time we had the fire going, it was getting dark. We made ourselves a couple of steaks and cooked some potatoes. It felt like a perfect evening, just the two of us in the middle of nowhere, beers in hand, music softly playing from a speaker. We talked about old times, made jokes, and laughed. The kind of trip that made you forget the worries of everyday life. As the night wore on, we started a game of cards. It was one of those old games we used to play when we were kids, and the laughter came easy. But then, just as I was about to lay down my cards, I heard it, a soft sound, like a whisper carried on the wind. I froze. Ben noticed my expression and stopped mid-laugh. There was no wind, and the forest around us was unnervingly still. Then we heard it again, a quiet, low humming, and the sound of footsteps. Not far, but not too close either. The steps were slow, deliberate, like someone walking up just outside the reach of our campfire's light. "What the hell was that?" I whispered to Ben, but he was already standing up, looking in the direction of the sound. "I don't know," he said, his voice serious. "Stay here. I'll check it out." He grabbed the flashlight and slowly moved toward the edge of the clearing. I sat still, my heart pounding in my chest, my eyes darting back and forth. The humming continued, faint but distinct, like someone was singing a tune just out of view. I waited, listening to Ben's footsteps, crunching through the leaves. They stopped. I didn't hear him call back. "Ben?" I thought. Then I heard something else. A loud snap, like a branch breaking. I jumped, adrenaline rushing through me. I scrambled to find the flashlight and started calling out to Ben. He didn't respond. That's when I heard the humming again, closer this time. It was as if whoever it was had circled back to our camp. I reached for the bear spray, unsure if that would even help, but I knew I didn't want to be unprepared. Seconds stretched like hours. The air around me was thick with tension. I crept out of my tent and made my way toward the fire pit, hoping Ben was back there. But as I stepped out, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The fire was low, barely flickering. The whole campsite felt off, like the shadows were shifting unnaturally. Suddenly, from the dark forest behind me, I saw it, a figure, just outside the range of the firelight, standing still. I couldn't make out their face, but I could see their outline, tall, thin, with something hanging loosely by their side. It wasn't an animal, it was human. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The humming started again, only this time it was louder, clearer. "Ben," I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. I thought I saw something flash, eyes, and then they turned, walking slowly away. I rushed to Ben's tent. His sleeping bag was empty. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the flashlight and started running, calling his name. "Ben! Ben!" My voice was shaking as I cut through the trees. But there was no answer. The humming was gone now, but the footsteps were still there, faint and echoing from somewhere just out of sight. Then, I found him. Ben was at the edge of the clearing, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear. He hadn't heard me calling him. He didn't seem to recognize me at first, just stared at me with that haunted look. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I don't know what happened. I went to check the noise and I think I passed out for a second." "Process it. We need to leave. Now." We grabbed our gear and packed up as quickly as we could. The air felt oppressive, thick with something that didn't belong. We hurried down the trail, not looking back, just moving as fast as we could until we reached the car. We didn't speak much on the drive back. We didn't need to. The strange thing was, when we finally reached civilization, Ben started talking about returning. He wanted to go back to see if we could figure out what had happened. I didn't even entertain the idea. That place was cursed, haunted by whatever had watched us that night. I haven't been camping since. I haven't even been back to Wyoming. That night, something followed us, and whatever it was, I don't ever want to meet it again.